So hey guys, back with another video for you. Today we're going to be talking about the NFC South and how they did. Not gonna lie, pretty interesting statistics we got here. So let's start off with the big marquee matchup game of the week. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Bucks, Saints. Um, Now, before we get into anything, I just want to say two things. One, Tom Brady, welcome to the NFC. And two, people still got to realize Tom Brady's Tom Brady. I mean, yeah, he did not have the best game, but man, he threw some dimes out there today. He had a corner of the end zone pass to Mike Evans late in the game, absolutely spot on. Even though there was a lot of communication issues, still had some pretty good throws in that game. Um, so overall opinions, this game statistically from both quarterbacks was not that great. Um, So here's what I'll admit. Let's start with Tom Brady. Tom Brady, first drive, pretty good. Capped it off with a QB sneak. Really led the team down the field. Looked fantastic. The thing is, I gotta say, and this will be true for Teddy Bridgewater as well, is, being in a new team, having an interesting offseason, really struggled with communication. I think there was a third down and long in the second quarter where there was a miscommunication between him and one of his receivers, and the first thing he did was walk down the field and start yelling at his receiver, um, which is not a good sign. So, and kind of what happened after that, I think, pretty much they got rattled after that, and Tom Brady made a lot of other mistakes, threw two picks, one obviously the pick six, and once he started getting going again, started having that chemistry with his receivers, it was just a little too late to make it happen. The Saints had a big lead, and there just wasn't enough time. Drew Brees' statistics shocked me. I'll just read them to you. He got 60% completion, which is the worst out of all the quarterbacks. He threw for the least amount of yards with 160 and threw for 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, they didn't need that. Kamara just torched the Buccaneers defense, so they didn't really need it as much, but it surprised me that, only 60% completion. Because when I was watching the highlights, it really looked like Drew Brees was, picking apart slowly but steadily this defense, but apparently there was a lot of incompletions. Maybe I just wasn't doing the math in my head, or wasn't paying attention to those plays, but it really surprised me. But there's a reason that these two, Tom Brady and Drew Brees, are still playing in the NFL, is because they're really smart and they can still pick apart defenses. Even though they didn't have the best of games today, they really, really had some stellar plays in this game. So I think as the season goes on and as people get a little more comfortable, I think that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of these quarterbacks come out. Like I said, with Tom Brady, I think it was a lot of communication issues. And I think also getting used to playing tougher D's down there in the NFC South. The AFC East, it's a lot easier. So we'll see if he can adjust and develop with the team, get that chemistry going as the season rolls on. But yeah, moving on to Teddy Bridgewater. So this is how I felt about Teddy Bridgewater. His statistics, he had 64.7% completion, 270 yards, and 1 touchdown. That 1 touchdown was a big play, just a broken play, wide open, had a wide open receiver on the right side. I think he only had one defender to beat him all the way in. Very solid play. Here's what happened in that game. One, the the Panthers secondary was not that great against Derek Carr. But talking about Teddy Bridgewater, same thing with Tom Brady. A lot of you could just see the communication errors, not feeling comfortable. It was a tough game for him. Obviously, they also did rely a ton on the run game in this one. With McCaffrey, a lot of times it was just him punching it in. They didn't really, Teddy Bridgewater had his reps, but it wasn't a lot of shots in the red zone. Like I said, they'd get to the red zone, really rely on McCaffrey once they got down there. So, but he did do pretty solid. I wouldn't say it was a great game. Wouldn't say it was a horrible game. He played pretty conservative. Didn't try to force anything, but I think that also hurt them in the end because, like we said, the Raiders were just playing fantastic, and they just weren't able to keep up. And so I'm hoping he has a good season too. Like I said, I feel like a lot of these quarterbacks have a potential to have a really great season. And in the last game, this was pretty shocking. Matt Ryan dropped back to pass. He dropped back more than this. Obviously, he got sacked sometimes, but he had 50 pass attempts, so that's a lot. That is a ton. He completed 37 of those, so he had 68.5% completion, which is really good compared to everybody else in the conference. He had the most yards, 450 yards, like just absolutely incredible. 2 touchdowns and an interception. Unfortunately, they still lost this game. And you might be wondering, with that stat line, how did they lose this game? I'll explain why. 1, Seahawks played really good in this game. But number 2, this was what kind of I saw constantly in this game. You have the Falcons working the ball down the field. They get to about either the 40 on their side or the 40 on the other side, and they just couldn't convert on third downs. Matt Ryan, I think he had a decent game, but when it mattered most, I don't think he played that well. Like we said, the pick he threw was at the end of the game. It was an end zone heave. So I'm not going to count that against him really all that much. I think it was just a lot of just not being able to convert on plays when you needed to convert. I mean, yeah, 450 yards, that looks fantastic. Got 2 touchdowns, fantastic. He had some big throws to Julio Jones. He had a wide open touchdown to another wide receiver. I don't remember his name, but it was a blown coverage, so he was wide open. And then they threw kind of a touchdown there at the end that didn't really. Definitely the Seahawks defense was really good, and I think it's part of the reason why they didn't play as good. Jamal Adams was all over the field. That was a huge pickup by the Seahawks. But it was just really unfortunate, and they got so behind in this game. It was literally late in the game. I think they were down by 3 scores when Matt Ryan got those 2 touchdowns. Before Matt Ryan got those 2 touchdowns. So it looks like a tough game. If I had to rank the performances, though, to be honest, I'm not going to lie. Drew Brees, he was the only one who won and didn't throw a single interception. Even though, yeah, he's the worst completion percentage and the least amount of yards, they came out on top in that game. Also, Taysom Hill got some reps, which was pretty cool to see. I think he only had 1 completion, though. He did play a little bit of tight end, which was pretty interesting. But other than that, not too much from him. But yeah, Drew Brees is going to be my number 1 this game. Number 2, I'm going to have to go probably with Teddy Bridgewater. He had 0 picks. Like we say, some communication errors, and I don't think this loss was completely his fault. So, had a pretty solid game. Then I go Matt Ryan, just because he had a great statistical line. Could have done better, though, throughout, like, in those tough situations, those third down and longs. They can try to convert on 4th down. He didn't get those either. So, I think he could have done that. And I would have to say Tom Brady is coming in last. But like I said, Tom Brady's still Tom Brady. He made some dimes. I think once they get chemistry going, this is going to be really good. But thanks for this. This has been the NFC South quarterback review. I don't know which team's coming out next. It's probably going to be the NFC West or some AFC team. Maybe the AFC East.